Thursday, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to today's virtual day trip to wine country. I'm Sam Kimball from New York Wine Events, and today I am really excited to announce that we are going to France. I'm coming to you from the beautiful location here in Provence that you see behind me, in the town of Lourdes, which is an old Roman town about 1 hour north of Saint-Tropez in the south of France, 300 meters, 1,000 feet above sea level. And we are heading to the iconic Château De Bern, which is right behind me here. You can see this gorgeous chateau. This is a historic place. It's on the Aurelian Road, which was the path that the Romans took on the way between Italy and Spain. So the chateau, which was built maybe 300 or 400 years ago, is based on Roman architecture and design. And you can see the square towers and turrets in the shape of the building in parts. It's absolutely gorgeous. And nearby, speaking of the Romans, there's Roman ruins. There are Roman pottery factories that used to, back in the Roman days, be active pottery factories. An amazing place. To learn all about Chateau de Bern, you can visit ProvenceRosé.com. That's the importer and the amazing people and company that bring this wine to us in the US. ProvenceRosé.com is the address. While we're in today's session and tasting, if you have questions or comments, please don't be shy. Put them in the Q&A or the chat in Zoom, and we will get to them. We'll try to handle them on the fly as they come in. At New York Wine Events, I'm proud to say we've had the honor and the pleasure of working with Chateau de Bern and the Provence Rosé Group for a number of years at our grand tasting events. Their wines are extraordinary. The bottles are even beautiful. And it's really a wonderful company and an effort to bring a product over to the US that's extraordinary. So without further ado, it's my pleasure today to host the importer and the person who at Provence Rosé Group is the CEO, Bob Gaudreau, who brings this wine to the States. Welcome, Bob. We're thrilled to have you on the show and to spotlight Chateau de Bern.
Great. It's great to be here, Sam. Thanks for having us this afternoon. And we're getting into rosé season, so it's time to get going.
It's May. It must be time to talk about rosé and figure out what we need to stock up for the summer. So I have to ask you, what's the origin of the name Bern? So it's Chateau, which means castle in French, de Bern.
That's right.
Where does Bern come from?
Bern comes actually, there's a lot of religion in France, and Bern comes from Saint Bernard. So the estate was gifted by a noble to Saint Bernard, who was originally from Burgundy. And it was shortened over time to Chateau de Bern, but it's originally from there. So that's how it got into that naming.
That's very fitting, because this is the second day in a row this week we're spotlighting a wine named after a saint. Yesterday we had Saint Francis of Assisi. So I think it's Saint Week for wines for us. So you are a wealth, Bob, of knowledge about the history and the story behind Chateau de Bern. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay, so Chateau de Bern, I believe 1776. It's quite easy for me to remember when it started because it's the same year our country started here in America. So 1776 is when Chateau de Bern as we know it today was started. So about 200, 250 years ago. Before that, as you alluded to, the Romans used to travel through Provence, and it was the Romans who started planting grapes in Provence as they went along the Aurelian Way down into Spain. So it's been going on for quite some time, and they were the first to really get rosé as we know it today. There were red wines, but rosé kind of came into its being originally from Provence. That's where it all started.
Interesting. And I mean, were they drinking rosé back in those days, in the Roman days?
They were. If you look at the rosé the traditional way and the way the French make it, they just lift the skins out. So it's a red grape. A lot of people don't realize it's actually a red grape with a white pulp inside. So the skins have very little contact with the juice, and that's why it's got that beautiful pink pale color. Especially Provence rosés have a beautiful pink color from that limited contact, the skins with the juice. And yeah, that's how it was done back then.
And I have to tell you, we talk about that, and as part of our efforts for our audience to discover wine and learn about wine, we talk about why is rosé pink and not white or red, and it's about the skins, and actually it comes from red wine grapes. But when you talk about the color, I love that because it really is an extraordinary and distinct color of these wines coming from Provence. And when I drink French rosé, I often think, God, the French are about 10 or maybe 100 or maybe 500 years ahead of all the other regions in terms of producing rosé. It's so sophisticated, it's so smooth, and it's just on another level of nuance and sophistication than other rosé. And your rosés in particular are 100% on that level. So
well, you're very kind.
When you talk about that, and you talk about Château De Bern and a region like Provence that's making great rosé and has for so long, what makes a great rosé? I mean, what are the components of the flavor profile, the strategy that these Provence winemakers are employing to make the wine that you deliver? What makes that?
Well, yeah, a lot of people talk to terroir, but terroir is not just soil. So soil is a part of it. And in Provence, most of Provence, the upper part where Chateau De Bern is, have beautiful limestone. Limestone gives a freshness to Provence rosé. It also gives a minerality. You can actually, the roots are quite deep. And they get right into the limestone, and you can pick up the minerality. And that's very unique to Provence. As you get closer and closer to the coast, it turns from that beautiful limestone more to a sandstone. So you'll get different flavors, different profiles as you get further south. But up in the hills, you get a beautiful limestone in the soil. That's number one. The second thing is you get the weather pattern. In Provence, you have these beautiful Mistral winds. What are the Mistral winds? They come down from the north, and then when they hit the south, they turn east, and they go across the vineyard, and they cool the grapes at night. So you get these beautiful cooling winds at night. So you have the hot temperatures of the day, beautiful cooling winds at the night. And the grapes, they love that, and that helps. The other thing we're very lucky at Chateau De Bern, we have water. Water is a very precious resource in Provence. We have 300 days of sunshine and water. So we get naturally, we're irrigating. The final thing I think that makes a good rosé is the winemaker. We are blessed to have Alexis Cornu. Alexis has probably 7 or 8 90-point scores in the last 2 years. He has 15 gold medals. He's a great young dynamic winemaker in Provence who's and he takes chances and risks in things he does, and he gets these beautiful consumer friendly rosés that people just love to drink.
That's super interesting and a fantastic answer to my question. I mean, it sounds like it's a combination of the limestone that is in the ground and the prevailing winds and the weather and the winemaking skill, frankly.
And the know-how, yeah. And of course the grapes themselves, right? The certain grapes grow well. in Chateau De Bern, the wines are made with 3 different grapes: Grenache, Sanso, and Syrah. This one of the ones we'll taste has a little bit of Merlot, but Chateau De Bern is famous for Grenache. The Grenache grape is what gives you the acidity and the freshness. Grenache is what you'll feel on the outside of your tongue that makes you salivate and gets your taste going and makes you want to drink even more. And it's that beautiful Grenache that comes from Chateau de Bern that really distinguishes this group of rosé.
You know, when we were talking about doing the show today, you described to me some really interesting characteristics of how they go about running the vineyard and how they approach sustainability, the organic nature of the farming. You even talked about cleaning the fields. So just so our audience, which is 99% Americans, and you know, I've never been to Provence. I couldn't tell you anything about the area. What are they doing that is distinct and interesting as it relates to how they're farming, sustainability, organic nature, cleaning the fields? You talked about a herd of cattle that help that process even. It was super interesting. It almost felt like, you know, there was a cleaning crew that keeps it really pristine for that rosé.
Well, Chateau de Bern, first, Chateau de Bern is the #1 tourist destination in Provence. So it's the #1 wine destination. People come from all over Provence to visit the property. So it is pristine. We've got a 5-star Relais and Chateau hotel on site. So people come for the hotel. We've got a Michelin star restaurant. So people from all over come just to eat at Chateau de Bern. We also have a bistro that won the Biblos Award, which in France is kind of the Michelin man. It's for entrees under 30 euros. So we've got a lot of people coming, and organic and sustainability, those things are part of our raison d'etre. It's what we are, what we stand for, who we are. So before it became fashionable, we were recycling. Before it became fashionable, we were taking weight out of bottles. And specifically to the vineyards, we want them to look good. So a few things we'll do is we will plant every other row, we'll have flowers in the row. Why do we do that? When we turn the soil, those flowers, those nutrients, those nitrates get back into the soil and act as a fertilizer. So we don't have to. The other thing the flowers do is they put a beautiful fragrance and floral tone. In August, when the skins are very thin, some of that smell, the odor, can get into the grapes, and they'll pick up some of the floral notes from the flowers that are actually in the vineyards. For safety, in France, you need fire breaks because we get quite a bit of heat during the summer. And when you have a lot of heat, you need to put these areas of land that are clean between the vineyard and the forest. In the old days, we would use tractors and we would just clear out the land. These days, we've got a herd of 100 cattle, and we move the cattle, and the cattle naturally cleans the earth. They scorch it and eat everything right down to the dirt, and you can move the cattle along, and they will clean a 30-yard wide fire break so that fires don't spread if they break out. So we use fresh manure, we recycle compost, we recycle water. It's very important in Provence, and taking care of the land ensures the land will take care of us for generations to come.
That is so cool. And I in our wine tours, when we're out going to the vineyard country and we're taking groups of people, one of the things I remind the people who go on our tours, which are all in New York State, which is a great wine region, is that it's a new wine region compared to a place like France, where they've been making wine for thousands of years. And when I hear you talk about it, how literally just how they're doing some of the farming techniques and tactics. It's super interesting, and it's also really encouraging to know that a leader in the field is doing those kinds of sustainability and responsible things in the process.
Thank you.
So let's take a little tour, because I think you said something that for me was really interesting, which is the #1 tourist attraction in Provence is this winery, is the Chateau De Bern, with the boutique hotel and the relay and all that stuff. So I'm going to put some different pictures up in my background and tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here. So I'm going to go to this. This looks like gardens next to the winery.
Yep, you got it.
Obviously this is a wonderful bottle shot of that great square bottle. Bob, talk about why the bottle is square. What's the inspiration of the bottle being square?
Well, if you go back to the first shot we were in, the turrets, the architecture of Chateau De Bern, the Roman, most chateaus in France have round, if you just move just to the side, there you go, right behind your left ear is one of the towers of Chateau De Bern. And it's a square tower with a square top. Most in France are round with a rounded top. So this bottle of Chateau De Bern takes the square from that turret and brings it to life. It was one of the first square bottles in France. We launched this about 15 years ago, and now this bottle, with a slightly different name, a French name called Grand Récolte, is one of the most popular rosés in all of France. But we were taking a little bit of a risk to put rosé and wine into a square bottle at the time. That was kind of unheard of.
Well, at the time, there was probably a legitimate concern. Are we going to confuse people to think that it's some sort of scotch or something? You know,
that's right. I mean, you might think it's a bottle of Johnny Walker, but I'm hoping the color is a little bit different so you won't confuse it.
It's quite different. All right, so let's move around a little bit. Obviously, the rosé goes through the process of being in tanks. This is a beautiful tank facility.
Well, we have the winery at Bern. I mean, we've spent millions on it. What's kind of cool is we actually have all the vines on computers. There are 5 million vines that we have, and the vines, and not just at Chateau de Bern, but some of our other estates, if you're on your iPhone, you have a GPS, and you can actually see where you are. You can see whether you're in a plot of Grenache or Sancerre. You could see how much sun those grapes have had. You could see how much water and rain it's had naturally. So all those grapes are on a computer system. So when our winemaker's out, he knows how to treat them and what to do. And that's very important. So they're all, that technology's there. As far as the tanks and the pressing facilities, all of those infrastructure pieces have been refreshed in the last 2 years. So we've spent millions and millions to use old-fashioned approach, but modern technology to bring the quality of the wine up and to keep the quality consistent. That's very, very important in a wine that's going to be on the shelves, is consistency in the product.
And for example, if I were there and in the middle of this particular part of the vineyard, I could go and identify exactly on my phone which block I'm in or what part of the vineyard.
That's right. If you had the app, each field is numbered and you could see where you are, but you would see all the characteristics about what those grapes have had in the way of nutrients, sun, food, water. And so you know what to do next with them. The plot that's behind you is one of the highest plots, actually. That's a plot of Grenache. Our best wines come from that plot. Those are 30-year-old vines. The roots are about 6 feet deep. They pull up that limestone that I was describing earlier into them. It's called the plateau. And they get the most sun and they get the cooling breezes at night because they're right on the top of the mountain.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Couple of other shots. Here's the square bottle, obviously, and we'll see it when we taste in a moment. I thought the barrel facility was particularly cool. And then you told me a little bit about the logo, which is in the stained glass window, or that graphic in the back of the bottle room there, the barrel
Yeah,
room.
it's a little hard to see from where you are, but what you'll see if I put the bottle forward is there are 13 sprays of light. That's from Louis XIV, the sun god in France, the gentleman who helped build Versailles. And so the logo takes elements of the sun god and brings it into Bern. There's also some of the parts from Saint Bernard, some of religious symbols in there. And the Knights of Templar, you'll see swords. The Knights of Templar were also big back in those early times. And there's elements of the Knights of Templar in there as well. So quite
cool.
a bit of history goes into the emblem and the symbol of Chateau De Bern.
A couple of other shots I wanted to show everybody because it's absolutely gorgeous there. I mean, it's truly beautiful. Couple people enjoying wine out in the beautiful outdoors in the vineyard there. Another shot of the winery facility, and then inside as well. This looks like a part of the tasting room, I believe. Yeah.
That's right. We have the tasting rooms and the barrels there, and most of the time the barrels are reserved for our red wine. We do have one rosé, which is aged in new French oak for 2 months. So we do have a rosé that's actually aged in oak, and it gives it a beautiful finish, that one. Excellent.
All right, should we taste some Chateau De Bern?
I thought you would never ask.
I think people watching thought I would never ask either.
Yeah.
All right, so the first thing we're going to taste is the Chateau De Bern Romance. This retails for $14.99. I mean, what's not to like? And you know, if you taste this wine, you will be blown away at how nice it is. So talk us through what are the tasting notes? What's the origins of this selection, Bob?
Okay, so the first wine is called Romance by Chateau De Bern, and we'll put that in. You can see it's got a beautiful glass stopper that goes on the top and seals the bottle, and it's got these beautiful, I don't know if you could see it, it's got these beautiful dimples on the inside of the bottle. So you can save the bottle, use it for water. The color, the first thing you'll see is a beautiful pink hue in this wine. This wine is Grenache, Sanso, Syrah, but it has a little bit of Merlot. You're allowed, Alexi, when I mentioned he takes risks, he put in a little Merlot. That's not common. You can do that with an IGP. You cannot do that with an AOP. But he did that with the IGP. What the Merlot gives is a beautiful roundness, beautiful red berry nose. I mean, you can smell this rosé from right here. I don't even have to put it. I can do it right there, and you get this big floral bouquet that just comes. Beautiful pink shimmering color. Wow. Red fruits, currants, and a nice finish. You feel the finish with this rosé more on the top of your tongue, but it really refreshes your palate. In fact, if you don't mind,
have another sip.
I'll do it again. Yeah, it's very refreshing. What you find on Romance, it's an IGP. IGP is indication, origin, protege. A few years ago, the European Union renamed the wine. So you have IGPs, AOP, appellation, origin, protege. And this wine, IGPs are great value for money. They're usually the up-and-coming regions. And this is from areas of Provence itself, and just really good, affordable, goes down easy, pairs with everything you'd imagine a rosé. But I think the best thing this wine pairs with is friends, sitting around the table, having a glass as a cocktail. This is one you'd bring on your pool or your patio and just have a glass. And
it's not too strong. I mean, the alcohol content is what, Bob?
12 and a half. I'm glad you said that. This is drinkable rosé, 12.5% alcohol. It's very easy, very light, and you could just enjoy it. Sometimes I worry it's too easy drinking, tell you the truth, Sam.
And I like to drink rosé before dinner. I like to drink it with some really nice cheeses. What are some cheeses you would recommend? Because one of the questions we get a lot is, what do I pair rosé with? And one of my first answers is, well, there are certain cheeses that go particularly well. What would you recommend for this if we were having it before dinner and pairing with cheese?
I mean, light cheeses, bries. I would tend to stick with the lighter cheeses, the bries. I would stay away from heavy cheeses like a Gouda. That said, I had a smoked Gouda with an AOP the other night, and it cut right through it. The acidity cut right through it and was very cleansing. But I would keep it with light cheeses overall. I personally like it with seafood. I mean, a shrimp cocktail, any kind of crab meat cocktail, those kinds of light seafood cocktails are my favorite aperitif kind of pairings with rosé.
How about soft shell crabs?
Where are they? I want them now, Sam.
They're in season. They're in season, and we just picked some up today. So I think I'm going to pair it with soft shell crab. I also on the cheeses, I agree with you on light cheeses. For me, I like to pair the rosés with goat cheese, or there's a Spanish cheese called Mahon. Very light, and they bring it out, and also a little bit of fruit, is great with it as well. So
I should have said that. We actually have also a herd of goat at one of our other estates, and we make our own cheeses, the parent company, and goat cheeses are lovely. I mean, goat cheeses, that's a great tip you have right there. They're lovely with a glass of rosé.
When will the property open up for visitors? Obviously, it's been, like all of us, on sort of stay-at-home quarantine. But
that's right.
It's a very popular place. When will it be back open?
Well, we know that people have returned to work this week in France. We're anticipating hotels being opening around mid-June. So the property should open middle of June and will be open all the way till the end of the year. So unfortunately, we had quite a few events that were in the spring. We have a lot of weddings and things. Those will be moved to the autumn. The autumn is a beautiful time in Provence. The autumn is great weather and just fantastic time to be in Provence.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so we'll move along to the AOP, the Château De Bern inspiration.
Let's do that. I'm going to move this one out of the way.
And I will put this one up on my screen so everybody can see it as well. Here it is. This is the another great bottle shape.
Yeah. Now, inspiration. This is the square bottle. Inspiration is a much lighter, more pale color. This brings out much more the orchard fruits, the white fruits, the peaches, the pears. Yeah, just a beautiful floral, but much more around the white fruits. Very pale wine. Yeah, and the Grenache. Again, this wine is 50% Grenache. This is only a third. This one I feel immediately on the outside of my tongue. So you feel the freshness. And my mouth is watering now. It's overwhelmed my saliva glands with water. And that's what this does. And of course, that makes you thirsty and want to drink some more. But beautiful color. Again, a shimmering, pale, kind of peachy color. And yeah, a beautiful food pairing. This, Sam, is a food pairing wine. This is a wine first and a rosé second. And you're going to want to eat nice food with this. Very light meats, poultry, Thanksgiving. This goes great with a turkey. It has enough of the acidity to really cut through a turkey thigh. Great Thanksgiving. And it comes in a large format. If you see, we also have magnums and 3 liters. You put that on your mother-in-law's table and you'll have a friend for life. Yeah.
Well, yes. You know, it's really interesting that you just made that point about this being a food pairing wine, because one of the filters that I use and others do as well for sort of evaluating a wine and what's the sort of the most enjoyable context for drinking it, is, does it make me hungry? Am I hungry when I drink it, or does it make me thirsty? And both things are good things, but there's some wines that make you hungry and just it's about the combination of with food, and there are others that are just really great for drinking, and that you're thirsty when you're drinking them. You want another glass.
Well,
and so it sounds like
say,
this one has a little bit of both.
I was just going to say, it does have a little bit of both. So if you were at a bar and you were out with your friends or your wife or girlfriend, and you were up at the bar, you would have a second glass of that. You would have the first, and then you would have a second glass of that. Equally, when you're at the table, you can bring that wine with you to the table, and it can travel, and it can go. You can even eat it with lighter meats, a pork, a light meat, and it will still do just fine. I even had Chateau De Bern I was in San Francisco with a group of Psalms at International Smoke, and we had a variety of different meats with a rosé, and you wouldn't classically do that, but it worked. It worked very well. So you might want to try that. Pizza, it's great. Mediterranean foods as well. Things with lots of red and green. So a pizza, it would work good. Pasta, you can have rosé with pasta. It works well with bream fish. It works well with the Mediterranean climate.
I've had this wine. This is one that I would love to pair with, wood-fired pizza with white sauce and asparagus and bechamel. And that's not the classic, red sauce pizza, but that's got these other flavors and that bring that Mediterranean element to the table.
I'm coming to your house.
We have a question. Where can we buy these wines in the New York area?
Yeah, Winfield Flynn, if you're in New York City on the east side, Winfield Flynn is one place. Warehouse Wines down by Broadway, downtown New York. If you're in Westchester, New York, where I am, Westchester Wine Warehouse in White Plains, or BevMax in Portchester. If you're out on Long Island, you can find them at McNamara's in Bridgehampton, or Churchill's Wine Shop, also in Bridgehampton. So you can find them around wine.com. Go to wine.com online. That's another place you can find them. But if they don't have it, you can email me. Go to ProvenceRosé.com, and I will give you a shop, or you can use a little zip code finder and find a shop near you.
That's great. I have one more question. When we buy these wines, should we age them after bringing them home?
I'm really glad you answered. Rosé is meant to be drunk, so don't age a rosé. Bring it home, age it for a day, put it in your refrigerator, and drink it the next day. Grab some friends, grab some colleagues, grab a dish, and drink it right away. Rosé, best in the first 2 years. Best in the first year. Certainly a well-made rosé you can keep for 2 years, but I wouldn't hold on to it much more after that. Only a rosé. We have one rosé that's aged in oak. That you might be able to hold on to for a maximum of 3. But rosé is a wine. It's meant to be buy it, cool it, and drink it.
That's a great note for us to end on, because frankly, those of us who like wine and do a little bit of like collecting and keeping it in the wine fridge, you get into this mindset of, well, is this occasion where these people are coming to dinner, or we're going to do, is this worthy of taking this bottle? And what's great about this is you've got some absolutely exquisite wines here, and they're available, they're easy to get, and when you get them, drink them.
Yeah, they're affordable. So drink them now. Drink them now.
That's great. Well, Bob, cheers. Thank you so much for being a part of this broadcast, virtual day trip to wine country. This was, by the way, the first time we've crossed the ocean and gone overseas for day trip to wine country. So,
well, I'm hoping we can do it in person together, Sam. That would make me happiest if we can actually go there in person. Those days are coming soon, and I'm hoping we can do that.
I always tell my wife, hey, we could go to this one or that one, and this one up in the Finger Lakes. She says, oh, that's fine. And then if I tell her, well, no, Bob says we need to go to Provence, to Château De Bern, she'll be packing her bags before I finish that sentence. So,
well, if I've learned anything during this little pandemic, I've learned you only live once and you live now. So let's enjoy the moment. Thank you, Sam.
Well,
thank you.
Listen, we've gotten some really nice comments and feedback during the broadcast. Thank you for being a part of it. People enjoyed it. And by the way, these wines are available in 3,000 plus retail stores across the U.S. So if you have any trouble finding them, let Bob know at provencerosé.com, or you can email us at info@New York Wine Events. We will see you on the next virtual day trip to wine country. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks, Bob, for being part of the show.
Pleasure, Sam. Thank you.
Everybody.
See you soon. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.